Our first PMP Hall of Fame inductee of the evening is Richard Deering. Dick was a pioneer in creating a software program that addressed the specific needs of pest control companies and operators when it comes to routing, billing, and much more. If it weren't for Dick's hard work, we'd probably have a lot of companies out there still chiseling their invoices into rocks. Let's take a look at Dick Deering's life and career.
Nearly 40 years ago, Richard Dick Deering founded ServicePro, a software company that makes it easy for pest management professionals to automate everyday tasks. Deering did not set out to start a tech company, however. In the early 1970s, he owned a lawn care company that also offered pest control. Although the company started with 3 people, it grew rapidly. Before long, it provided services in 14 cities to about 45,000 customers in various states. As he searched for a way to run his business more efficiently, the idea hit him to create a business reporting program. There was no good software for service industries in the early 1970s, Deering says, so, using a mainframe operating system he continued to use through the early 1980s, he developed the program that eventually became ServSuite and shared it with some of his friends in the industry. Technology advanced, and mainframes gave way to Windows. By the late 1980s, Deering was still in the service business, but a lot of people used his software. The stages of software from the middle 1970s to now have drastically changed, Deering says, noting you can run your company on your phone. 2 of his children, Andy and Kim, joined the company in the late 1990s and helped ServicePro achieve success. It was very much a family business, Deering notes. He does not know how to program, and he does not type, but he does know the needs of an owner. Even ServicePro software users made a difference. ServicePro held annual in-person user conferences that encouraged users to share with developers what they wanted in future versions of the software. Deering retired in December 2020. In January 2022, Service Titan acquired ServicePro, now part of Field Routes. Daughter Kim O'Connor is head of operations, and son Andy Deering is general manager. Deering always has lived in Springfield, Ohio, on the same farm in the same house in which he was born. When ServSuite's headquarters were in Columbus, Ohio, he would drive about 54 miles west to the office for 36 years, 5 days a week, and sometimes 6. Nowadays, Deering spends his days putzing around on the farm where he grows sweet corn and spends time with his family, including 10 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. He says he likes to bring them to the farm, get them good and dirty, and send them home.
Ladies and gentlemen, please, you're already joining and welcoming to the podium PMP Hall of Famer Dick Deering to say a few words and accept his PMP Hall of Fame award.
Where do I start? I guess I'm going to start with, I don't know Steve and Jay, but I don't know how they pulled off to make me go first.
Alphabetical order.
Then I figured I was alphabetical. Well, I want to thank my family, as you've seen. We had 3 kids, 11 grandkids, a grandchild. I was threatened to keep the whole thing 52 years into 3 minutes because I was told that the next 3 speakers will duplicate what I do. So if I keep mine short, they might do the same. What do you think, huh? I want to thank the family, and as you see, it was a family event. Make a long story short, I want to thank the PMP and the family, and they do a lot of work to put this thing together. I mean, there was a lot of work a month or so ago. So I'm just going to real quickly go through what I think happened in the last, well, I guess I was in the industry for 52 years. Back in early 70s, we went through a huge transition of how people run their business in the last 40 years. I was very large in the lawn business early and quickly converted over to pest. But one of the early stages of doing that many customers, we had to do something. The number one criteria was just accounts receivable. We were serving, I don't know, 30, 40,000 people. And we was using white cards and had certified statements, and we'd run an AR, and it drove my accountant crazy because we could never come up with the same answer. So I looked around at what was out there. I found a mainframe package, and we start working on it. And this would have been in the early 70s. Well, the only thing out there, some of you guys around here with gray hair and maybe my age, you probably might remember back in the early 70s, there was just computers with floppy disk. And you put one in for AR, put another in to do something else. Well, we went through that stage in the early 70s, and not just me, the majority of you out there that was in the business. And then later, during the 70s, it was all mainframe. So we was on a system, there was a whole bunch of different databases, Linux, and a whole bunch of them. And the industry was floundering of what to do. Well, we developed a package that just kept working on, mainly for myself, and we went through those stages. So we got to the point that mainframe was on the borderline. Mainframes didn't do a lot, but they done well what they did do. So it was, I'll never forget, there was, I don't know, maybe on the package that I developed, there was, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 people on the same software, and we met in New Jersey. And I'll never forget the meeting. Bill Gates and Microsoft was battling it out of what was going to happen. Those of you who happen to think back. So this one guy in the room said something about, he heard of we were all mainframe people. And somebody in the back of the room said something about Windows. And 2/3 of the room laughed. Well, you know the story there. So we started to develop a package on 3.1 Windows. We got all excited when Windows 95 came out. So the problem I went through is you think you pay all this money and you put a package together and you spend the money, and not many years later you got to go a new direction. So we end up going to web-based in the early 2000s. The big thing that switched software was August of 2007. Those of you who know what happened on that day, that's when the country come to a screeching stop. So there was a lot of people out there with different databases, programmers, all this internal people. In 8, 9, and 10, those of us in the software business, we exploded. Because what happened to you in the pest industry, you had to find a way to run thinner. And all the people out there come to the conclusion that I can run my company with an online software. The biggest battle we had was old thinking, is people didn't like their data being out there in cyberspace. That was quite a challenge. So that particular day exploded the industry, and people got away from the other databases to run their business. And that's really what happened. Well, what happened after that is things start adding on, routing and card processing, and all the things that can hook to a software that you run your company on. So along came the states and the feds. You had A&B inspections, you had WDI inspections, and without a computer and software, it was tough to run your business because the state requirements demand more and more and more. The three main states that really started everything off was probably California, New Jersey, New York. They had all these reporting things. Of course, all the rest of the states have jumped on board since then. And the software, us in the software business, were scrambling to try ahead of state what you got to do to run your business. So along come, right after that, is mobile. So the mobile devices, the phones, let you run your business. You were able to do, they used to be handhelds, they were too expensive, a couple $1,000, and then the small individual, it was tough. So here comes along mobile. Well, can you imagine? Well, of course, Fauci, you know, the master of science, shut the country down. Well, can you imagine what your industry would have been if you wasn't able to, when we all had to stay at home and we had to run our business. We had the large companies that would love to close at their month end, but they had people out in cyberspace. But you guys were all able to run your business from technology from home when COVID hit. So seemed to skate through it pretty good. I think software-wise, I think as we know the economy, it's probably going to be a challenging year, 2 years. And if anybody says they know what's going on, I think they're crazy, because right now, I don't think nobody knows what's going to happen. But I think you're all able to run your business. I think software helped you a lot. And it was a never-ending challenge. I guess when a lot of people who, I guess I built a reputation up over, I was ever convention for 40 years. And when you see me stub up here, and I didn't know if people knew I was injured, sick, or drunk. Because, but, so I don't think the next X years will go through the transition that you all went through from the 70s to now. I don't think so. And then I think you get very creative, the industry. So that's pretty well my story. There's one thing that I want to take just 30 seconds to bring to attention. We had a person work for us for a number of years. This person's name is Randy Haynes. Between Randy Haynes and myself, we probably visited over 30 years, half of the companies out there. I mean, Randy was the head person at FMC Software. He worked for them for many years. I assume quite a few of you knew him out there. And Randy then, when FMC decided to, he worked for us. So he's been in the industry 30 years. A wonderful, wonderful individual. We lost Randy here in the last year. And let's just take 5 seconds and give Randy Haynes a hand, okay?